Welcome, everybody, to the Lifestyle Rewind podcast. Today, we have a special guest episode where I'm going to interview another local Wisconsin right here, which is kind of cool. Taylor Simmons, a Reiki master teacher, herbalist, and empathic medium. How are you, Taylor?
I'm doing so good. How are you, Brandon?
I'm doing great, doing great. It's really awesome to have you on. Thanks for joining me. And honestly, you said this is your first podcast interview, so that's kind of cool that we get to get that under the books as well.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. Yeah, this is my first podcast. I've never done anything like this, so I'm super duper excited to be doing this and with somebody I'm familiar with and talking about something that I'm super passionate about. And yeah, I'm happy to be here. I'm excited.
So that's awesome. So I want to kind of today talk about plant medicine for my audience. I'm newer into foraging and plant medicine, and I always had like the nutrition side, but my girlfriend was a forager and a gardener, and she really got me into the herbalism side and something I want to study more. And we're kind of doing plant by plant. What got you into herbalism?
Yeah, so that's really awesome to hear that you're taking that venture. Um, yeah, so I remember growing up. I don't know kind of what planted this seed. But my mom always had a garden. She was always gardening, and we had rose bushes. And so when I was little, I would go out in her garden and pick these roses and make tea with them. I don't know where I got the idea. I just maybe it was just the smell and just the experience of the rose itself I was trying to capture. But so I started doing that when I was really young, and then really didn't know anything about plant medicine or herbal medicine or anything like that until um, later in my teens, early 20s. I started to have some health problems. I started getting cystic acne. Um, Nothing worked for me. I tried, the benzoyl peroxide. I tried pretty much everything over the counter. And really nothing did it for me. So I started to look elsewhere. And I started kind of perusing the internet, and I came across um, natural remedies for specifically for skincare. That's kind of where got started. And I remember the first thing that I found was a recipe for honey and cinnamon, and that was one of the first things that I tried. And I wouldn't necessarily recommend as a more of an experienced herbalist now. I wouldn't recommend putting cinnamon on your skin, but because it's more of a hot plant and can be an irritant. So
Yeah.
but yeah, that I started kind of experimenting with that, and through trial and error, I did come to find out that it was more of an internal issue. My body was detoxing through the skin, but I started with the honey and cinnamon, and then found plant medicine. Um, and then I remember trying Plantigo major, which is common plantain, broadleaf plantain, and that being one of the first plants that I worked with that I picked up and made something with, and it was a tincture. And I attempted to use that on my skin as well, and it had a wonderful benefit. But obviously, it was, like I said, more of an internal issue. But yeah, that's where that rabbit hole started, and that was about 15 years ago now. And I'm here. I am.
That's crazy because I think plantain was like the first wild thing that I learned about in like my foraging
Hmm.
journey, and it was like the first thing that I was like, man, I see this all the time, but didn't know it was all the things that it is. It's like,
Hmm.
and then the second thing for me was mullein. That was
Yes.
another one that I had no idea what it was. My girlfriend's like, oh my God, this is amazing. You need to learn about this. And like, so I started reading about it and learning about it. It's fun how you go through that journey of trying something and learn. Maybe it's not the exact right thing you need, but it kind of opens up this portal of going, wow, there's all this natural stuff around me. What does other stuff do? Is that kind of what you went through too?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, it was Plantigo major, and then I found, believe it or not, I found passion flowers. So it was Passiflora uniflora, common passion flower growing in my backyard. And I had always wondered what this flower was. It's such a unique looking flower. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it is
Yeah.
one of the most insane looking flowers. And like I always like would see it in passing and be like, what is that crazy looking flower? And then I found out it had medicinal properties and was growing abundantly everywhere. Um, and then yeah, I went and worked with that plant, and that entire plant is medicinal. You can use it from, plant to leaf to flower to seed pod, and it
Yeah.
has wonderful properties. And so that's kind of where at that unfolded, and I just, yeah, I started to look all around me, and there's such an abundance of medicine and food just everywhere, you know. So
That's what really started to get me into it. Not just like the influence of being with somebody that was really into it, but like
mhm,
I'm obviously into health. I'm a holistic health coach. So I
mhm.
started looking around and I go down rabbit holes all the time. I'm a tinfoil hatter for sure. Um, so I started looking around and going, wait a minute, everything is pretty much like becoming bad for us. It's
Yeah.
chemical warfare with the food and the medicine. And I started to really research things. And I feel like when you start to open your eyes and go, wait a minute, dandelions aren't a weed. Actually, you can use the whole
Right.
plant and they're like amazing for you. And you
Mhm.
start to look at other things. It's like you take this veil off, and what some people might look at as weeds that are like terrible to look at and taking over their yard. Now I look at and go, well, like, wait a minute, that's purslane, that does this and does that. And that, like, I start to like, that's wood sorrel, that's high in protein and really good for you. I start to like
Mhm.
see the world around me a lot differently, I'm finding out.
Yeah.
You,
Yep.
you
Yep.
really look at like what the benefits things can have. Um, so when did that start to turn into like an interest into, wow, I need to like really go into this a little bit more?
Mhm. Yeah, I think um I ended up moving um to the Menominee Reservation, and I started to, and it was just a continuation, but I started to find I was living in an apothecary essentially. I had never seen such an abundance of plant medicines. And we're, my children's father is Menominee. And so being kind of immersed in that culture as well, and seeing how those indigenous people use plant medicine, I was exposed to even more of this world. Um, and then yeah, like I said, this being living in an apothecary, having all of this food and medicine grow in my backyard, and I never stopped learning while I was there. And then I had my daughter, and it just became even more of an immersive thing. I was out there with her, and we
Yeah.
were it just interacting with the land, and she was right there alongside me. So it became even more um, of an important learning experience, because I had my kiddo with me, and I want her to learn to live with the land. And
Yeah. I
yeah.
truly believe, and that's pretty much like the whole backdrop of this podcast and the things I'm doing right now with the lifestyle rewind is like going back to that like ancestral things that ground us. There's a lot of stimulation in our world, and just
Mhm.
connecting with nature with our kids can have such a different effect on our mental clarity, the way we look at the world. And I feel connecting with that is so much more important now because we're not slowing down as a
No.
society, like we're just speeding up. So I think teaching our kids to really look at the things in front of them and understand them a little bit differently has
Mhm.
become so important to me, and why now I want to like check into nature and the things around us a little bit more as well. So I totally relate to that.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, I definitely see an an immense need for reconnection, right? As we've got the whole turn of AI, coming
Yeah.
in, and just the whole digitalization of the human race. And we definitely are we tend to numb ourselves, as especially in Western culture, it's kind of built in that way. And so yeah, getting out in nature and finding that you can harvest your own food, harvest your own medicine, you know, make textiles with plants and all manner of other things. It's so needed right now. It is so needed right now.
It really is. I had like a moment. Took a little vacation. We went camping, for those in Wisconsin, west of Shawano in like the Gresham area,
Oh yeah.
and checked out for a week, and it was really awesome. Like just connect with nature. I'm a grounder, so I didn't wear shoes like the whole time. But
Mhm.
we went up to the Dells of Eau Claire,
Yeah.
and we went to the fall. I don't know if you've ever been there, but if you haven't, go. It's
Mhm.
amazing. Like we went to the falls, and it's like outside of Anago a little bit. Walked around. I took a moment where I stood in the river and I really like looked around. I didn't have my phone on me. I was barefoot. I was like touching the water and like something really hit me of like, this is disappearing. Like with AI data centers, with the way that we utilize resources right now, like our soil, like if we want to really break it down, everything from the soil to the air to the water is
Yeah.
changing or being depleted every day. And I
Mhm.
just kind of looked around and was like, man, if we don't start to appreciate this and nurture this and regenerate this as like a race, like no political ties, no things in between, but as human beings, we're going to lose all of this. And it was this weird, like, epiphany that I was having with myself. Is like, even if it starts with me and one person and people like us having conversations like this and just opening people's eyes to say, hey, everything about around you can be utilized. You don't have to go to Walmart to spend something on a synthetic product to make you feel better. That it really struck me, like kind of on a spiritual level even.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. Yeah.
It's so it struck me on a level of how do we get others to appreciate things. And I think it's this way, right? Telling others the beauty of nature, the uses of nature,
Mhm.
what's right in front of them. Maybe don't cut down all the dandelions in your yard this year. Maybe research them and figure out what you could do with them, right? Like we actually make dandelion tea, dandelion jellies, which turned out pretty good, and the kids really like them. Just to utilize and learn about something. And I think when you learn about something, it really teaches you more how to appreciate that thing.
Mhm. Yeah, I definitely agree. Yeah, I think the reaction that I get from people who are not really familiar with plant medicine or foraging is often, they're interested in it, but they don't want to venture that way because they're afraid they're going to misidentify things. And so
Yes.
I feel like a lot of the hesitation that people have is, accessibility. And I guess presenting plant medicine in a way that people can digest is something that I like to try and do. Because yeah, like it, especially if you involve your kids with this stuff, it can be such a fun and immersive thing. Um I love doing like simple syrups with flowers, with
Yeah.
spring flowers. And um so I've found that people are more open to plant medicine, also if there is like an aesthetically pleasing quality to it. It's kind of more inviting that way. And so that's kind of what I've seen. And but I feel like people are, starting to kind of wake up to the fact that, especially here in the West, pharmaceutical companies are not our friends. And our environmental toxin load is not good. Like it's absolutely maxed out. Our food, our water, our, like you said, our air, our soil it's all becoming more increasingly toxified. And so I also see people turning away from, those artificial ways of
Yes.
living too. People are not, although there is this massive, you know, this massive interest in AI. And I feel like, Big Brother is like pushing it on us. I as I the people around me are not necessarily like, well, it's fed to us, so people are using it as a tool, but the majority of the people are not interested in data centers. They're not interested in
Yeah.
living artificially. So yeah, I see more and more people turning away from that way of life and towards more natural living. And so making it more accessible to people is going to be something that's kind of going to accumulate that interest, I feel like, you know.
Yeah, yeah, I do too. I firmly believe that a lot more people, out of necessity, are going to look at the things that they can do in more natural ways more often. And yeah, I totally agree with you. I think as a whole, like me, I use AI, right? I run a business online. There's things that I realize that it can make easier for me. But
Mhm.
then there was a point where I started to like go so fast with it. And actually, the moment that I explained a little bit ago was like, I need to stop using it as much because the data centers, right? Like I do a lot of digging and it's not lost on me what those data centers are doing to our natural resources. So
Right.
it started to get me thinking like I need to use it a lot less. If I'm really going to like rewind my lifestyle, I need
Mhm.
to really do that. I need to think about how much I'm using the data in the house and the Wi-Fi and unplugging it at night and at
Mhm.
times and getting ourselves away from that a little bit more. And a year ago, I wouldn't have thought about those things. And
Mhm.
I think a lot more people, the more they delve just a little bit in things, in natural remedies, natural foods, clean water, anything, the more they're going to be curious about the next steps. And I think that's super promising.
Yeah, I do as well. And yeah,
So
there.
for our audience, if anybody's like, well, yeah, great, but do I have to like be an herbalist to try to get into plant medicine or learn more about it? And I'm a no, but what would you say?
Absolutely not. I don't think you have to have any sort of formal certification to work with plant medicine. Um, I think that you need to be able to safely identify your plants, and that's pretty much bottom line. Um, and so I have found, you know, the best way to do that is to get into communities who are
Yeah.
knowledgeable about plant identification. And I've found I found a lot of that on, in Facebook, on Facebook groups, plant identification groups. And I over the course of the last 15 years, I spent a lot of time in those places and using, plant guide books and things like that. And um but yeah, those are going to be the resources that people are going to need in order to kind of start that journey. And I think that that's pretty much all that you need, and a healthy interest in plant medicine,
Do you suggest kind of take one plant at a time and learn what it looks like, learn what it does, the adverse effects? Kind of I'm admittedly I'm the type of guy that'll learn about like 30 things at once and I have to
Mhm.
rein myself in for sure. And I've had to even tell myself like, okay, one at a time, like slow down, know everything. Is that your suggestion as well?
Well, I think you people should go at the pace that they're comfortable with. I'm a bit more of I'll take in as much information as I can person.
Yeah.
Typical ADHD. But um, yeah, so yeah, I think my recommendation to people is to, yeah, pick a plant, take an interest in it, and get to know it. Um, get to know the shape of the leaf, how it looks when it's a juvenile, how it looks when it goes to seed. You know, there's so much there is so much to know about working with a plant, from when to harvest it, from how to preserve it, how to utilize it, the different extractions that you could do, the different types of solvents to use to extract that plant. And the different types of seasons that some plants are harvested in, like burdock root, for example,
Yeah.
is and other roots are harvested in the fall, because the plant goes to sleep in the fall, and so all of those nutrients are going into the heart of the plant, which is the roots. Um, so yeah, I definitely recommend going at the pace you're comfortable with, but learning as much as you can about a plant before you choose to, harvest it. I mean, I don't want to say don't harvest a plant, because it's difficult to work with the plant intimately and get to know its texture and the leaf patterns. And I will just, and when I first started, I would just grab a pinch of the plant to take with me if I didn't have my phone, say, to get a positive plant identified, at positive plant identification, for that plant. But yeah, just kind of immerse yourself in the plant, and figure out kind of, what its properties are, and go at the pace you're comfortable in, because there's infinite plants to learn about out there.
Yeah, and it's so in depth, right? Like we could probably talk, and maybe we will. We could probably talk like 5, 6 times and do a series, and like
Yeah.
everything from tinctures to salves to
Mhm.
how hot you want to boil stuff or
Mhm.
steep stuff at. I mean, in
Yeah.
my journey with this, I'm a tea guy. I really like herbal teas. So I was like, well, that's got to be easy, right? I just dry
Mhm.
stuff and make tea. No, there's so much more to it. Like some things like hotter boils. Some things you gotta boil, you gotta steep with warm room temperature water. Like I've
Mhm.
had to really learn and sometimes the hard way on like which things to utilize,
Mhm.
different ways of extraction, steeping, and everything. So I think there's a lot to it, but being curious is, like you said, is the biggest thing that I found helps me. We have knowledge everywhere. There's groups, there's amazing people like you. There's obviously search engines that we can use to really just ask the questions we need to learn everything we can about that specific plant or what we want to do with it. And that's kind of cool too. Everything's kind of at our disposal these days.
Mhm. Yeah, it certainly is. There are infinite resources for research. One of my and while I'm thinking of him, one of my favorite uh, plant plant foragers. I wouldn't call him an herbalist. I don't think he's an herbalist necessarily, but he is out of Minnesota. His name is Sam Thayer, and
Oh,
he's on Facebook. I think he's on other social media platforms as well. But he does a lot of informational videos about different plants and how to use them, like mainly how they're used in food preparation.
yeah.
So that's a wonderful resource. But yeah, like I said, there are infinite resources, especially online, and
Yeah.
to utilize for people.
A lot of questions I get all the time from a lot of people that I'm working with, talking to, my audience is we live in a world, and you said the word earlier, everybody's really worried about toxins, right? We
Mhm.
got heavy metals, parasites are talked about often. Between cleansing, toxins that we might worry about in our day to days, are there any herbs or plant medicines that you recommend for cleanses or anything like that?
Mhm. Oh my goodness. So this is something I am very passionate about, because I've done the cleanse. I've done the parasite cleanses. I've done the liver detoxifications. Um, and there's a lot of information out there to kind of sift through on the
Yeah.
topic.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, and so the things that I continue to reach for, that I have found to be so beneficial, are, well, number one, milk thistle seed. And that is one of the best things for the liver. It heals scar tissue in the liver. If you take it, you can take it for about a week straight, tablespoon, a couple times a day, for about a week straight, and it'll detoxify metals out of your system. It's supportive to, obviously, the rest of the filtration organs in the body, and it helps your body reproduce its glutathione, which is its main source of antioxidant. Your body's main source of antioxidant, which can become depleted if you're using things like acetaminophen and things like that. So yeah, definitely milk thistle, and you can't use too much of it. It's just amazing. And also, if you come in contact with poison, I wouldn't say don't go to the doctor. Definitely go to the doctor. But if you say you eat something, trying to think, like you ingest something that's just not sitting well in your body, or maybe even you say you were sick and had to take acetaminophen because it was all you had, or whatever. not knocking over the counters, but um it taxes the body, it taxes the
Oh,
liver.
yeah.
And so definitely given the liver the boost with the milk thistle. Um other plants that I would use for, clearing the body, detoxification, um lymphatic cleanse. So you're looking at like prickly ash, clover, things like that. So those things are really wonderful, local to the environment, for lymphatic cleansing. And yeah, so if we're talking about parasites, you know, obviously one of the things that people reach for most often is going to be the black walnut.
Yeah.
And so, and one of the things that I recommend when people do like parasite cleanses, and this is something that I had to go through as well. I learned my lesson with this. I did the parasite cleanse. I took, the black walnut. It was like papaya seed and medium chain triglyceride oil. It was clove oil, oregano oil, and I had a massive toxin release because I wasn't supporting my body's ability to detoxify when I was doing that parasite cleanse, which is something that can happen. You can disrupt the biofilm in the body, that the parasites have created, and it gets released into the body because your liver is overloaded. So when you're doing these parasite cleanses, it's important to do like liver cleanse as well, support your liver, otherwise it's going to overflow into the body. um yeah, so those are just a couple of the medicines for detoxification. I definitely recommend supporting the filtration organs if you're gonna do detoxes. And so, you know, supportive medicines for the kidneys would be one that grows around here would be Queen Anne's lace, or
Okay.
it's wild carrot. And so taking that root and making a tea with that is good for, it's a diuretic, it's good for clearing out the filtration organs. It helps with gout, breaks up uric acid crystals in the body, so kidney stones and things like that. So definitely supporting the filtration organs. Another good one for that would be nettle. Nettle is
Oh,
also
yeah.
a really wonderful diuretic. um, and just in general, stinging nettle, I have, it's one of the things that I like make it my mission each year to harvest in abundance because I use so much of it, and it's such a nutritive, right? um it's like it's so nutritiously dense that some midwives give it to women post birth to kind of build that
Yeah.
nutrient store back up. And yeah, it's just wonderful. So that's one
That
of
was one that we really did a lot with this year. Is we had a lot in our backyard. We replanted some, and
yeah.
we tried it out. We really tried to get as much stinging nettle as we could this year. And it's funny because that's another one of those that, like, you'd think on the surface level everybody's like, "Don't touch it! Oh my God,
Right.
stinging nettle! Stay away from that!" But it's one of, like, it's a medicinal powerhouse of a plant.
It so is. Yeah, do touch it. Like, it has hypodermic needles on the stems that hold this medicine, and I have used it on people for rheumatic conditions. My partner threw his back out. Was a pulled muscle. We thought it was a slip disc. It was such a severe pain. But for like 3 or 4 days, we went to the same nettle patch and kind of just slapped his back with the nettle, and the inflammation ended up going down. That the it has antihistamine properties and anti-inflammatory properties, and it just delivers all of this medicine to right where it's needed. And so yeah, after those like 3 or 4 days, that issue like resolved itself, and he didn't have to go to the doctor or anything like that. And so that's one of the ways that this plant is used. And the seeds, I don't know if you harvested any of the and eaten any of the nettle seeds yet.
No, I've not.
Yeah, so I started my friend told me about that, and He's also he's like lives in the woods. He forages everything, all his food, not like all of it, but the majority of it. He makes it his his mission to go out and get as much wild food as he can. And I learned about this from him. And these nettle seeds have, omegas and all sorts of vitamins and minerals in them. And all you do is you just kind of hold the plant down and take them and just pull them off. And they have like a hull on them that you have to separate out. But after that, you're left with they're kind of like chia seeds,
Oh, nice.
they're pretty comparable in nutritional value to chia seeds, omegas, you know, um, vitamins and minerals. And I got a quite a big container of those this year. And yeah, I use it for I use nettle for the root. I use for hair restoration, like hair loss. And so it has a compound in it that blocks testosterone. So you can infuse it into oils and use it for hair loss,
Wow.
like balding. And so that's one of the things that I like to use it for. And it just is, like I said, it's just so nutritiously dense that you use it as like a hair, like the tea is a hair wash, and it is incredible for the hair. I could get asked a lot, like, about like my hair. It's really, really long. And I tell people, wash your hair with nettle, like make a tea with it and rinse your hair with it, go to bed with it on. And
Yeah.
you'll see within a couple weeks, you will see a noticeable result. Like it will be visible length. And so that's what I do with my hair. And man, I put it in everything. I have so much of it. I sneak it in my kids' food. Like if I'm making spaghetti or like soup,
Yeah.
something that I can, that you would like put like parsley in or something,
Yeah.
right? I crumble it up and I put it in everything. So it's like a vitamin, you know.
We made like a citrusy tea out of it this spring, like right when it was going good. We started we put like some lemon in it and
Mhm.
lime, and it was so good. Like it had like this really refreshing flavor to it. And we're probably gonna do that again. You just gave me a great idea because we're actually in the process now of we make our own laundry soap.
Mhm.
She makes a lot of products. We're trying to laundry, or I'm sorry, hair shampoo is actually like our next like thing that we want to endeavor into to not buy it from the store. So we
Nice.
have like rosemary, we have mint in our garden, we have nettle that I didn't even think of for this process. So
Heck
maybe
yeah,
I need to bring that up. Yeah.
that's awesome. Yeah, have you guys ever heard of soap nuts?
No.
Yeah. I mean, they're not like local to the United States or anything like that, but it's like a type of tree nut that has saponins in it. You can
Oh,
order them online, and yeah, you make like soap with them. People use them in laundry,
yeah.
and um
Isn't there there's like a shampoo sort of like something a plant or a flower, something I've seen in reels where people like grow it. I don't think it's native around here at all. It's more like tropical, and you can like squeeze like the shampoo type of stuff out of it. I've seen that too, but now I can't remember the name of it.
yeah, it's called I don't know if this is the correct pronunciation, but I think it's called awapui, and it's shampoo lily. I've
Yes, that's
always
exactly
wanted
what I'm
to just
talking about.
smell one of those. People say that they smell so good. I think that they're native to Hawaii too.
Oh, okay.
They can,
That
yeah.
One thing I wanted to go back to, you mentioned for the lymphatic cleanses, you mentioned clover. Now, this is something that a lot of people would have like maybe in their yards and their backyards.
Mhm.
Now, is it all the same and equal, like the white ones we have in our yard and then like the purple clovers, or are there specific ones that are more for like the cleanses and stuff?
Yeah, I would typically recommend red clover or purple clover for the lymphatic cleansing. They're going to have more of the properties that you're looking for. But honestly, all clovers are amazing, But if you're looking for specifically for the lymphatic cleanse property, more you're going to go more for the red clovers. Um but clovers are also a nutritive. The flowers you can save dry, or you can eat them fresh as well, like for in salads and things like that. And they are so nutritiously dense, packed with iron, calcium, all sorts of vitamins and minerals. And so that's one of the things that I like to get an abundance of and keep for like to add to food. You can add them to soups and stews and spaghettis and pastas and breads and all sorts of things, you know, um, as a nutritive boost. Pretty amazing.
That's I'm gonna delve into and you'll see content about it. I'm
Mhm,
actually trying to learn more about microgreens,
mhm,
and I think this winter that's gonna be my goal is to grow some nutrient dense microgreens for our household and then maybe expand a little bit beyond that. But
mhm,
that's been my like passion project right now is finding out exactly how to utilize the nutrient dense greens that not only we have all around us, but the ones that we can easily grow as well. But in that journey, I'm a guy that I did the carnivore diet for a while, for a couple
mhm.
2 years. I was really into meat and fruits and honey only, and I did that for a bit, and then realized that like it fixed stuff for a while. But then there was other things that came because I wasn't getting the veggies, the nutrient dense stuff that I needed. I feel like there is two camps on this right now. There is like pro veggies, pro plant medicine, get as many as you can, eat the rainbow, dark leafy greens, and then there's, oh my God, plants have phytochemicals and they have oxalates and they have all this stuff that's working against you, and kidney stones, kidney stones. So it's either fear or love. Where do we find that middle ground of like, we need plants, but yes, there's ways we have to work around things like plants that are high in oxalates, the big fear word, if you ask me, around plants right now.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that having a variety, is kind of going to be the answer. And I think a lot of the issues with vegetables tend to come from store-bought vegetables. And and I call me a conspiracy theorist, but people that eat from the land, people that eat organically have, less of less inflammation in their body, less leaky gut, less cognitive issues and brain fog, just general sluggishness. And I think um, a lot of it is the pesticides and the herbicides that are used on the foods that we're eating. Um, and if we just eat a variety, we can kind of avoid
Yeah.
eating too much spinach because it's got the oxalates in it, um and
Or pro tip, blanch your spinach before eating it, and
yeah,
you get rid of the oxalates, right? And
yeah,
that's something that doesn't get mentioned often.
yeah.
Blanching a lot of the stuff that's high in oxalates, spinach, kale, those type of things. Even dandelions have oxalates, right?
Mhm, mhm.
Blanching or boiling them before eating them gets rid of all the oxalates. Now we don't have to worry about that. So I
Yeah.
feel like there's little things that don't get mentioned when people are like, "Oh my God, veggies have oxalates, stay away."
Mhm.
Okay, great, but there's ways around that.
Yeah.
But balance, I love that you're supposed to get a lot, get the balance, eat different colors, eat different things. If anything that you do all the time is going to build up in your system,
Yeah,
it's an
exactly.
absolute given. You need to mix it up with our bodies, and I think that's the slight change that can really have a huge difference on people. Is just mix up what you're intaking.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Yeah. They say everything in moderation, I think that there are truths, in certain platitudes,
I'm sure in your spaces that you work with too, you hear these things a lot, but you've said like leaky gut a couple times. Fatty liver is something I hear about all the
Mhm.
time, and I think both all of these things really, same thing. Detoxifications, eating low ingredient foods, sticking to organic and whole foods. But is there any suggestions for that kind of stuff like leaky gut, fatty liver, inflammation? Are these any things that you suggest in those realms?
Mhm. Yeah, so leaky gut is actually something that I dealt with shortly after I had my first child. And I was misdiagnosed as having hyperthyroiditis. But it turns out my thyroid was being aggravated from the foods that I was eating that was leaching out into my bloodstream from my stomach. And so what I ended up doing is omitting a lot of the foods that were aggravating to the lining of my stomach, which was compromised. So, a lot of the coffee and the processed foods and the heavy breads and the lot of the white sugary foods, the sticky foods, and so things like that. Because what happens when your gut is compromised is, you can get candida overgrowth, unfortunately, and other types of parasitic infections. And candida is naturally occurring on the body, but what happens when you you know your gut lining is compromised is it permeates that area and kind of just takes over, and you get all manner of issues, and it kind of just spreads throughout the body. And so yeah, I omitted a lot of the sugary white foods and starchy foods, and started eating cleaner. I was going with more healthy fats like salmon and things like that, eggs. I was becoming more aware of where I was getting my meats from, avoiding processed foods. I found pork to be irritating to my stomach. Um, and definitely incorporating a lot of mucilaginous plants. So you kind of want to approach leaky gut with a combination approach. So you have the compromised gut, which is inflamed and likely overgrown with candida or other parasites. So cleaning that space out with like astringents, so it would be things like dandelion tea and um you know things that are going to kind of help that gunk move, and anti-inflammatories, things like that, and calendula, chamomile, soothing plants. And so you're soothing the inflammation, you're getting rid of the bacteria by watching what you're consuming, because otherwise you're going to be feeding the candida with the white foods, the starchy foods, the sugars, because that's what it's consuming. Um, and then healing the gut, helping it to return to homeostasis with those mucilaginous plants. And those are going to be, things like aloe vera, um, dogwood violet is amazing for that. Helping heal leaky gut, soothing the gut lining, and self heal. So Prunella vulgaris, I don't know if you've seen it. Probably grows in your yard, but
Yeah, we actually do have some. I would have never known what it was, but
yeah.
now I think she taught me last year, and I was like, I had
Mhm.
no idea that we had this right here. I think I grew up having that plant, especially. Never knew what it was.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's kind of the combination approach that I used for myself. Everybody's kind of different, and you kind of just got to listen to what your body, like what's going on with your body, and move accordingly. But that's what I did with mine. Um, as far as a fatty liver, it's not a condition that I'm familiar with, but you know, milk thistle is one of the most supportive things for the liver. And if you're dealing with any sort of restrictive condition with an organ, you're going to want to support what it's doing. If I had a heart condition, I would want to support the heart, with a heart medicine like hawthorn, things like that. And so what was the other one you said? There was a third one you asked
I
about.
kind of lumped inflammation in there too,
Hmm.
a little bit, but yeah,
Hmm. Yeah.
which I think make milk thistle and stuff are
Hmm.
pretty big for that.
Hmm.
Turmeric roots. I'm sure are other roots good for inflammation.
Yeah, there's a ton of well, turmeric is probably one of the most anti-inflammatory roots, but it's not one that grows local, but it's definitely one that I recommend, and I myself consume often. But the the main compound in turmeric is curcumin, and that is extracted um, through the liver. Like the body has to process it, and so it is fat soluble. So you could, working consuming turmeric, you can make like a turmeric latte or something, but you want to put it in something that is gonna mix with a fat that's gonna extract that compound. Otherwise, you can use black pepper, and um, that works with the liver to extract that compound. But
I
yeah,
do
as far as sorry, go ahead.
I do turmeric, cayenne pepper, black pepper, and sea salt for like an anti-inflammation. A
Ooh,
little whack that back with a little bit of lemon juice or something,
oh yeah.
or olive oil in the morning, kind
Mhm,
of thing. So yeah, I know that the turmeric definitely needs the black pepper to help it break down.
mhm,
And then also something I didn't do, but then learned is really awesome is golden milk, and like warming up the turmeric with a
mhm,
little bit of milk is super good too.
mhm. Yep. Yeah, doing that definitely helps it. Helps that curcumin extract from there. I love doing that with doing the golden milk with honey and cinnamon and ginger and other like warming roots. And they
Yeah.
all are, anti-inflammatory and antimicrobial, and it just is so delicious and healing and warming, and I just really love it.
Taylor, I have super appreciated you stopping by today. I feel like we got like a 5% of what we could talk about. One thing I'm doing around here in the Lifestyle Rewind podcast is different than other ones I've had in the past is I'm gonna have recurring guests that kind of stop by. We talk about different things. We delve into more of what we talked about in the past. Would love to have you stop by again. This has been an awesome conversation. And I really appreciate that. Where can my audience find more of you?
Yeah. Yeah, so I have a presence on Facebook. My business is called Mystical Whimsy Reiki and Herbs. You can find me there on Facebook. You're welcome to follow me, shoot me a message. Yeah,
Awesome. Well, like I said, I appreciate you stopping by. Super informative. Looking forward to talking again. I'll con you into coming on again sometime new soon,
okay.
and we'll talk more about herbs and plant medicine, and maybe go a little bit more deeper into certain ones. If anybody's watching this and wants to know specific things from Taylor, drop in the comments. I'll talk her into coming back on, and I'll ask her more questions. Until then, I really appreciate you listening to the Lifestyle Rewind podcast. Subscribe on YouTube, like, share, and comments on this video. And like I said, let's get Taylor on again. Taylor, it's been awesome having you stop by and have this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, Brandon. Take care.
All right. Until next time, this has been the Lifestyle Rewind Podcast, an off grid mindset in an on grid world. Have a great day, Taylor.